Hello and welcome to the Word Nerd. I know that right now we are in uncharted educational territories, and for many of us, those uncharted territories right now include online education and distance learning. I've seen a ton of videos out there that are spoofing on this whole Zoom classroom thing and kind of making light of it, and that's great. Funny videos are awesome. If we can't laugh about it, we might cry. But in this video, I want to give you 4 tips and tricks that are going to help to improve your online classroom and your Zoom meetings. Are we ready? Here we go. The first tip I have for you is for those of you who are teaching in an asynchronous class. An asynchronous class means that you're not all meeting together at the same time in the Zoom room. These teachers are recording their lessons and then posting them on an online platform for their students to watch later on. My friend Kelsey, who teaches online charter school, pandemic or not, told me that when she does these lessons, she hides a secret code word somewhere in the lesson. That if a student comes to ask her a question that she knows very well was in the video, she'll ask them for that password. If they can give her the password, she's happy to explain it. But if they can't give her the password, she'll send them back to that first direct instruction video. This cuts down on answering a lot of repeat questions, and it makes the students accountable for their own learning. Sure, we're all here to help, but if they're not going to take advantage of the tools that we've provided them in the first place, then we are going to drive ourselves crazy. So next time you record a digital lesson for an asynchronous class meeting, try to hide a code word in there. I like to hide in a code word that relates to me personally so that the students can get to know me a little better. So I think for my first week of college instruction, my code word was candy corn. I think last week it was Big Buddy because I'm addicted to Diet Pepsi. And these little snippets also help your students to get to know you as a person too in a way they can't often do in an online platform. So tip number 1, hide a keyword, a treasure word, a secret code word somewhere in your digital lesson for your students to find and use as a password to get the material that they need. I myself am a college educator, but before that I was a middle school educator. I'm married to a middle school educator. I'm watching my sons be educated by their teachers. I have family members who are teachers. I have friends who are teachers. I have colleagues who are teachers. So I have been able to experience this online learning from a wide variety of angles. This second tip comes from my son's 2nd grade teacher. So shout out to Mrs. D. A lot of times there are tech troubles with online learning. And if we all have our microphones on and we're asking students for feedback, it can get noisy and it can get unproductive. So what Mrs. D asks her students to do is, instead of saying, oh, is my mic working? Check, like, mic check, can you guys hear me? And instead of having 20 kids jump on their unmuting selves and tell her, she says, touch your nose if you can hear me. Or put your hands on your head if you understand the directions. And so she's able to get those visual cues back from her students and move on or not based on their responses. It also helps her to know who's actually listening and paying attention and who she needs to follow up with later. Another great thing to teach your students when it comes to visual cues is when you're asking them to give you a visual cue, tell them to put it up by their face, because if they're giving you a thumbs up down by your belly button, there's no way for you to really know if they are listening, if they are comprehending. So recommend to your students, hey, when you hear me, put your hands on your ears, or touch your nose or thumbs up, put it right up high by your face so that I can actually see and know if you are good to go. This third tip comes from my husband, who is a middle school educator. When you come into a Zoom room and everybody's let in at random times, teachers let you in from the waiting room, a lot of times there's this awkward, just waiting and staring and looking at the people on the screen until the lesson starts. There's also a lot of awkward, hi, how are you? And then you repeat that over and over and over again as you let in each student. But the students who were early to class hear that awkward conversation 20 times. So what my husband does is he starts his Zoom lessons just a couple minutes early, and he screen shares immediately, and he puts up a screen. And the screen might say something like, grab page 27 and a pencil, we'll be ready to start at 11:40. And then he'll have some fun music playing in the background. Or it might say, I want you to think about a memory of the last really good meal that you ate. Be ready to share that when we come to class. So it's giving students a way to get prepared, either mentally or with supplies, so that when class does start, they're ready to jump right in. It also skips a lot of that social awkwardness. So tip 3, have a welcome screen and some music. It might look like this. The fourth and final tip for today comes from my friends who teach middle school or high school students synchronously, meaning that everybody's there in the Zoom room at the same time. And they're having a hard time getting their students to turn on their camera. And we get why they might not want to, right? Their house might be a mess, or if you live in a district where there's a lot of haves and a lot of have-nots, people might be embarrassed about what their home looks like, and they don't want their screen to be on. We get that. We understand that. We want to be respectful of that. But we also need to have some of those facial cues and feedback. So one recommendation is to tell your students, once you all get comfortable and in there and they can see that it's a welcome place, they can get to know their classmates a little bit, get to know you as a teacher a little bit. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks in to your class, put out a list of times when you as the educator really don't need the camera on. Say, you know what, if I'm showing a video or we're doing a Nearpod or I'm just giving direct instruction, you know what, you don't have to have your camera on. Here are times when feel free to turn your camera off. But when we are having a class discussion or when we are doing X activity, I really would appreciate it if you would put your camera on. It helps me so much. It benefits the learning of the whole group. And so if you could have your camera on for these activities, I would be really happy. And I feel like by having that compromise of here's when you can have it off, here's when you need to have it on, will help students know their guidelines. We set guidelines up for our in-person classrooms all the time, like crazy. We have rules for everything. We need to do that for our online classrooms too, and this might be one way to compromise with students and really get them on screen. A couple of other fun things that you could do to get students on screen is you could have dress-up days, right? That's a huge thing in middle schools and high schools, even elementary schools these days, right? Okay, let's do hat day. Everybody pop on real quick. Let us see what hat you chose. Even if they only pop on for 30 seconds, you at least have seen them a little bit and know that they're actually there, and not just turning on their camera and walking away so they can get counted for attendance, okay? You could have a new dress-up day every day of the week, or maybe you just do it on one day of the week, but that's something fun that you can do to encourage them to turn their cameras on. Now, if you have a student who, despite all of these things, is not turning on their camera, that's going to be an awesome opportunity for you to reach out to them individually and just say, you know what, I've given you these recommendations for when I prefer to have your camera on. We're trying to do some of these fun things. I still see that you haven't turned on your camera. Are you good? Are you okay? Is there anything you need? Is there something bothering you about class? Just check in with them one-on-one, and that might be all that they need. They might really do need some help. Things at their house might not be great, and this is an opportunity for you to start that conversation with them and get them the help that they need. Okay, so 4 tips: code words, mic checks, doing physical cues, touch your nose if you can hear me, welcome screen with a little bit of music, and also some rules for camera on, camera off. I hope that you have found these tips helpful and you can take them back to your own online classrooms. I wish you the best. I hope you're hanging in there. I know this is uncharted territory and we are all just doing the absolute best that we can. I know it's good to laugh, but it's also good to learn, and I hope you were able to do that today. Check back into Learning with the Word Nerd or subscribe so you never miss a video.